Welcome back to Rambling with Ryan, a sports podcast of the NFL NBA. And today it's a special, shorter kind of episode where we will be talking about the upcoming NFL season. So it's an NFL themed kind of episode, the upcoming NFL season and the Super Bowl favorites, and whether or not me or my dad, once again here, agrees with them. So,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, so here are the Vegas betting lines. My dad has the Vegas betting lines of the favorites, and we'll see what we think of
Yeah,
them.
let's start with that. So I'm looking at the Bet MGM. So basically, pretty much all the apps and different platforms, they're pretty much aligned. So they're they're on the same page.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be so different.
Yeah.
But just to let everybody know, full transparency, we're looking at the BetMGM app. So Eagles are the favorite to win the Super Bowl, the next Super Bowl, which is pretty interesting, right? They just won it, and they're favorite to win the next one.
Yeah, pretty predictable, I would say.
So Ravens, then Bills, then Chiefs, Lions, Bengals, Rams, 49ers, and Commanders. They actually they have the same odds.
Same odds.
Which is pretty interesting, right? So when we're looking at the Eagles, then plus 650, Ravens are 700, Bills are 750, Chiefs are 800, Lions are 1,000, and then Bengals, Rams, 49ers, and Commanders, that we said, they are 2,000.
Oh, right. And those are basically the main picks.
And then you go to Packers at plus 2,500, Chargers plus 2,500. So Chargers and Packers have the same odds.
Yeah.
And then Bears are at 3,500, and Texans are at 3,500, and Vikings are actually 3,500, and Buccaneers are at 3,500. So pretty interesting.
Oh, where are the boys? Where are the Cowboys?
So Buccaneers 3,500, as I said. Then we go to Broncos at 4,000, Steelers at 4,500, Cardinals 5,000, Cowboys are 5,500. So Cowboys have a lower chance to win the Super Bowl than Cardinals. That is pretty embarrassing, dude.
Wow. I mean,
that's all I'm gonna tell you.
We'll get to Cowboys later, but let's just start at the top.
Okay, so guess which team has the lowest chance of winning the Super Bowl?
Giants.
Wow, you're spot
Yeah,
dead on. Actually, there are two teams with the same exact odds to win the Super Bowl. Like the worst, basically the two bottom teams, like Giants and. I don't think you're gonna guess that.
Titan.
No, do you want me to give you a
What is it?
tip? Like the one that lost their main quarterback.
Oh man, who lost their main quarterback?
The one that retired.
Oh, Jets? Wait, no.
No,
Aaron Rodgers
the
didn't
team
retire.
that the main quarterback.
Oh, Browns?
No, Saints.
Wait, no. Oh, Saints. Oh.
So Saints and Giants have the lowest chance of winning the Super Bowl, and that's plus 25,000. You know what that means? You bet $1.
Then you get $25,000.
And they win the Super Bowl, you get $25,000.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty much expected, especially with Giants' hard schedule on top of the fact that they're not a very deep team.
And you know what's
I think
interesting?
It makes a lot of sense.
If you bet $1 on a Giants-Titans Super Bowl, do you know how much you're going to win if that actually happens?
Like 50,000 or something?
$1 million.
Wow.
So you bet $1 on the Titans-Giants Super Bowl.
Not happens, even for who wins, just if it happens.
Regardless of who wins,
you
win $1 million. Honestly, if I go to Vegas before I can actually make that bet, I will bet on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna lose $1.
Yeah, why not,
right?
Yeah, and then we could win 50,000.
Okay, so let's do it this way though. I'm gonna just go one by one, and you tell me if you kind of agree.
Yeah.
So Eagles have the highest chance of winning the Super Bowl, according to Vegas, right? So what do you think?
Yeah. So what I think about the Eagles, I think it's very expected that they are the favorites. They just came off a really dominant season and a dominant Super Bowl victory outside of the first 4 games of the season. They had a very dominant season. They should have been like, everybody should have seen them coming, but people were, too hung up on other teams. So it makes sense why they're the Super Bowl favorites. I mean, the team that always wins the Super Bowl are always the favorites. But
do you think they have the highest chance of winning?
no, yeah, but that's the thing. I don't think there's any way they will win the Super Bowl again. Because it is so hard to repeat, on top of the fact that Eagles lost a lot of depth over the offseason, as expected, because of how deep their team was.
Good, like, drafts, though.
Yeah,
they know how to do it.
Yeah, they know how to draft. Obviously, their rookies last year were really good, Mitchell and DeJean, which is what contributed to their Super Bowl win. But they did lose some depth key players because they had to pay people like Barkley and all that, and they had to keep and Bond and all that. So they're not as deep of a team. On top of the fact that they're in a hard division, they're also like the champs, and everybody wants to be the champs. They're probably not going to repeat, so I don't think they should be given the highest chance. Because I don't even think they're the best. Like, they're definitely a top 3 team, like, talent-wise, but I don't even think they're the best team right now, talent-wise.
No, I agree. Honestly, I do not see Eagles winning a back-to-back Super Bowl, right? Yeah. But I think one of the things that is really helping them and is really putting them at one of those, like, top spots is because honestly, there is really not too many contenders on the NFC side.
Oh yeah, there's really not.
Because when you really look at it, okay, like, yeah, there are some good teams, right? There is, of course, there is Eagles, there is like Commanders, there is like Niners, there is Rams, there is like Bears, there is Vikings, there is Lions. Like, there are really good teams, but when you really think about every single of them, like, which one could really win the Super Bowl?
Exactly.
Not really too many of them, like, you would think that they could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
like, even though, let's say, Packers are a good team, everybody knows they're not capable of winning a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So,
like, last year, they did not pretty much beat any good team, right?
Yeah.
Like, they lost to every good team that they played.
Yeah, they really benefited off of their easy schedule to get them to the amazing record that they had.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Eagles, I think we both agree that I really don't think, and again, as you said, like, every single team, every single of their opponent will play their, like, best.
Yeah,
to beat them,
against
right?
the Eagles.
So, and then another one though, I mean, like, okay, of course, in the Super Bowl, they're going to play an AFC team. And last year, we got to just, like, remember, that game was, like, just one in a million type of game that Chiefs played, like, that bad.
Oh, yeah. I really think if they played, like, let's say 10 times, I really think that would be the only scenario where they would get blown out like that. Like, that is just a crazy...
Exactly. I don't think that's going to happen next year. Honestly, doesn't really matter, like, which AFC team they're going to play, whether it is, like, Chiefs. I think Chiefs is going to be their worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I think Chiefs, they're going to, like, destroy them if they're going to play again.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion. Even Bills or Ravens, I don't think Eagles could beat any of those teams.
Yeah.
Last year, they just happened to have their best day against Chiefs' worst day.
Exactly.
And I don't think that just happens, like, every day.
And on top of all that, a point I also want to bring up is that Barkley is most likely not going to have the same season as this year.
It's very hard for a running back to have 2 back-to-back great seasons.
Exactly, which would
pretty much never happens in NFL. It just happened maybe a few times.
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's what could contribute to a little bit of a drop-off on Eagles' success, because obviously Barkley was a huge, major, pivotal factor in their Super Bowl run and their dominant regular season.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. And just like a tip for the viewers, right? Do not draft Saquon Barkley for your fantasy.
Yeah, don't draft Saquon Barkley.
Honestly, I don't think it's gonna have a good season.
Many people made the mistake of drafting Christian McCaffrey last year, and that did not work out at all for them. I think he played like 3 games. So
yeah, when you look at the stats, right? NFL stats. you really don't find too many running backs to have two great back-to-back seasons.
Yeah,
That's just a fact.
Because it's a very physically demanding position,
Exactly.
and it's just hard on the body.
So the next three teams are actually from the AFC: Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. Let me tell you first. I agree that those are really great teams. They have a shot at winning the Super Bowl, but I don't know if I agree with the order though.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
do
don't know if
agree.
Ravens would have a higher chance than Chiefs because Ravens can't actually get past the Bills, and
Yeah.
Bills can't get past the Chiefs. So how could Ravens have a higher chance of winning the Super Bowl than Bills, and Bills having a higher chance of winning the Super Bowl than Chiefs?
Exactly.
I would put Chiefs number 2, maybe Bills number 3, and Ravens number 4.
I would have it the exact same way. I do agree that these three teams are what should be in the 2, 3, 4. But as you said, the order, I think Chiefs should be 2, Bills should be 3, and Ravens should be 4. Because I think the way this app does it, the way these bet do it, they do it on the talent of the roster and not really previous. And they don't really account for the matchups. Like, obviously, on paper,
Exactly.
I do think of these three teams, on paper, Ravens have the best roster of those three teams. And maybe
But
Chiefs
Lamar
have the worst
hasn't
roster.
really proved that he could actually get over the hump, right?
Exactly.
I mean, like he needs to get over Bills and then Chiefs and then actually like some other team from NFC, right?
Exactly.
So he has a lot to prove, though.
Yeah, and he is not a playoff riser. He has not proven to rise in the playoffs. Like a very interesting stat from the playoff game that they lost against the Bills is that Lamar only had, first of all, he only had like, I think, interceptions and fumbles combined. He had maybe 5 turnovers in the regular season. 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and maybe like 1 fumble. But obviously none of them, they weren't like 2 turnovers in one game. But in that game, Lamar had 2 turnovers, which is already half of the amount he had in the regular season, in one game, and he had them in the same game, which had not happened. So he's not he has not proven to be a playoff riser at all.
Amazing regular season like stats.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the playoffs, he really has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
So then next is Lions, right? So Lions are pretty interesting, right? No doubt that they are really good,
Oh, yeah.
right? And the problem is, I think Lions could have had a pretty good shot at winning going too far, like really far in the playoff this season,
yeah.
maybe to the Super Bowl, but they lost their both like offensive and defensive coordinator.
Yeah, which
So I
is
really don't know how that's gonna play out because yes, like for example, when you look at the Eagles, right? In the past 3 seasons, they have not had the same coordinators, right? They kept changing, and
Yeah.
it worked out, right? They won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean Lions losing really good coordinators doesn't necessarily mean they're not gonna win it, but like it's huge, right? It's a huge adjustment, right? So as you know, like Dan Campbell, like was not calling plays, right?
Yeah.
During the games, right? It was really the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator type of thing calling the plays. Like, that most of head coaches, right? Like Kyle Shanahan as an example, right? They're calling the offensive, plays.
Yeah.
Right? But like Dan Campbell is not really calling plays. So it was really like the offensive coordinator, right? Calling those plays. So now he doesn't have him.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's
So who's the new offensive coordinator? How is he gonna like fit in this whole like like strategy and stuff like that? And then also, is he gonna like fit in Dan Campbell's like vision? Who's gonna call the plays and all that stuff? So even though they have a really good roster, they have a really good team. Dan Campbell is a great like kind of multiplier, right? This guy knows how to like multiply talents, right?
Yeah,
he knows how to get them going and all that stuff. But like now he has a lot to prove, like, and it's gonna be a challenge, like, to get on the same page with the offensive and the defensive coordinator. I think if he can do that, and if those guys are as good as the previous coordinators, maybe better, then I think Lions could actually go far.
I completely agree with that. I really think because along with Dan Campbell being like a multiplier, he's also a really good locker room motivator. He knows how to motivate a team.
Exactly.
So I think the Lions' success will come off of two things. Number one, obviously injuries, because they were devastated by injuries last year. But that goes for every team on here. Every team's success is dedicated on injuries. But the main thing that's also specific to the Lions is that this will really be a way to prove Dan Campbell's worth to the team, how good of a coach he really is. I think Lions' success will really be based off of how good of a head coach Dan Campbell truly is. And that is solely based on the fact that and that is solely based on the fact that Lions did not lose anybody, they didn't gain anybody really. They've stayed the same dominant team that theoretically that they will be. They didn't lose any major players, they didn't gain any major players. So I really think their success will be based on how good of a coach Dan Campbell is.
I would not put them on number 5 though.
Yeah, maybe.
Again, they are really, really good. And I don't think I would put them on number 5. I think they should be maybe in top 10, but I don't think they should be number 5.
Yeah, I do think some. I do think some.
We're gonna see though. We're gonna see, and again, I have a lot of doubts, I guess. But we'll see. Next one is really the interesting one, right? Bengals.
Yeah.
Bengals did not really improve on their defensive side.
Oh, no,
I know that they have
a
really good edge, and their offense is pretty amazing. I don't think you could get a better quarterback than Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about the guy. I said if I have to really pick one quarterback for my 49ers, that would be Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And I would pick
even
him
over Mahomes,
Patrick Mahomes, right? That's how I feel about the guy, right?
Yeah.
But and having Jamar Chase and it's who's their wide receiver too?
T. Higgins.
Yeah. It's amazing, right?
Oh yeah.
But on their offense, they didn't really improve much. And when you're really looking at their draft, it's interesting that they really. I would for example, look at Niners, right? Their first 5-6 picks were
defensive
players, right?
Ball,
but when you look at really Bengals, that's what I expected them to do.
I really expected all of their picks to be that.
So I really don't know, without improving so much on defense. And the funny thing is, next one is Rams, right? I know Rams, Niners, Commanders. Bengals, actually Rams, Niners, and Commanders, they have the same odds, right? But Rams and Bengals, I don't know how you could put them on number 6 and 7 when they did not go far this past season because of their defense.
Yeah.
And they didn't really improve much.
Exactly.
So how could these guys be how could Vegas put these guys on number 6 and 7? That is interesting.
Exactly. I really think Bengals are honestly one of the most wild cardy teams out here. Nobody really knows how they're going to be. And I really don't get why they would put them this high with a very lack of defense, especially since Hendrickson might not even play. They're still negotiating contract. He had said he's going to hold out if they don't pay him.
Play.
Yeah, we'll see what that. They cannot afford losing him. But the point
They're done without him. Sure.
But the point is that their defense could potentially be worse if anything. So I don't know why they're this high.
Nothing without him.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah, I really don't think I really don't understand it. Bengals offense no doubt is maybe arguably, in my opinion, the best offense in the league. These guys lost so many close, high-scoring games that it was really unbelievable. If any of those close games could have flipped in their favor, they could have been a 13-4 team. And honestly, I would go as far to say every single one of their losses came on the defensive side of the ball.
You could argue that Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase could be the best duo in the league.
These
guys' connection, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, they played in college, and now they're on the same NFL team. And really, all their flaws are on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody knows Joe Burrow is going to be great. Everybody knows Jamar is going to be great coming off a Triple Crown season. Exactly. Everybody already knows what T. Higgins is. And all of them are here to stay, but it's the defensive side of the ball that would really cost them. They lost so many close games. because of that. And you know what they say, defense wins championships. So
You know, for my fantasy football team, my first round pick will either be Jamar Chase or Christian McCaffrey.
oh yeah, I think
You remember like I had Jamar Chase last season, right?
yeah.
And one game he had 50 something fantasy points.
Oh yeah, I think
That
he was
just
the
unreal.
yeah. I think he was the leading scorer. I'm pretty sure some crazy percentage of fantasy football team winners had Jamar Chase. It was something crazy like that.
Exactly. You know, just some quick comment maybe on Rams, and then we'll move on to 49ers and maybe some on Commanders.
Yeah. Does that
But, like,
round out the top
Rams-
10, or what rounds out the top 10? Rams, Niners, Niners. Yeah,
I think
Rams.
the number, like the top 10 will be Packers, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But, you know, Packers and Chargers, they have like the same odds. So
Mhm.
maybe like, you know, we will cover like the top 11, right?
All right.
So just quick comment on Rams. Honestly, I'm kind of a little surprised that Rams is like up there, or Vegas has them up there. Like they have Sean McVay, they have an amazing offense, but like Rams are not really, they're not really going all in this season. They're gonna have 2 first round picks next season.
Yeah.
If you recall, right, they gave out their first round pick this year.
With the trade for the Falcons.
Exactly. So they're gonna have 2 first round picks because rumors have it, and I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. You know, Matthew Stafford is gonna retire after this season,
Yeah. It
or
would make
he's
sense.
no longer. He's not gonna be with the Rams,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna go for a franchise, you know, quarterback after this season, and with having like, you know, 2 first round picks, and then next year is gonna be a heavy quarterback, like, you know, draft class and stuff like that, and I think they are. With Sean McVay, I think they're gonna be able to get a really good fantasy quarterback.
Oh yeah, he knows
So
how to.
I don't think they're really after this season, in my opinion, and I don't really think they have a high chance. That's why I'm a little surprised. And they did not improve on their defense, in my opinion. So that's why they're really gonna like use this season to kind of like maybe let their guys get some experience under their belt, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe like get just some good players for next season, draft some good players for next season, and I think next season Rams are like definitely a team to watch for.
Yeah.
Even last season, if you recall, right, they were the only team that came really close at beating the Eagles.
Yeah, that's what I was
Right.
actually going to say. I do agree with you partially, but I also do agree that they do have just as much of a chance as anybody this season, and that they are actually partially trying to compete this season, especially with getting a 32-year-old Devontae Adams, which is still amazing, but I feel like you wouldn't really I feel like you wouldn't really waste money on him or use money on him if you weren't trying to compete. And I think they will, because they, as you said, they were the only team in that playoff run that even had a sliver of a chance to beat Eagles. They almost did it. They almost did it.
almost did it. No other team got even close.
Yeah, no
And
other team got close.
beating, including Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But like Rams could have. Yeah.
And mind you, all the odds were against them. It was in Philly, in snow. Like nobody could pass.
That game was not like all football. It was just
Who had the better
like,
run
exactly.
game? Yeah.
It was just that I think Rams again. That's Sean McVay, man.
Yeah, I really think they could have pulled
Right.
away with the game if they were in a less hostile environment, weather-wise and crowd-wise.
Like an enclosed, like, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean that game really that game really showed Rams' dominance. I feel like, and I don't know if you remember, speaking on their defense. Yeah, on paper their defense isn't that good, but the last few games of the season, as well as going into their playoff games, their defense really stepped up. They held Vikings to 9 points. Like, obviously holding Philly to 28 isn't like impressive, but it is Philly, and like you have to remember the last time they played Philly earlier that season, Philly dropped 37 on them. So their defense improved. I don't know if it was a mental aspect or like they just got more practice in, but their defense really improved going into the playoffs. And I feel like it's only going to get better because this Jared Verse guy, their first round pick from last year, he's only going to get better. He was a staple part of their defense. I think he had a crazy amount of sacks in the Vikings game, and their sacks in the Vikings and Eagles game were like 6+ sacks a game. Like they really improved. They stepped up in the last few games. I think it's only going to get better, which is why I would really agree with having them this high. I think they're just as good of a team with anybody. They have a legit shot to win their division, except
you have good points.
Yeah,
I really don't think they could win even the conference or win the Super Bowl, but like, yeah, no, I think it makes sense. They have a lot of things to be excited for, right? Like they have a great head coach, really good wide receivers, right? Matthew Stafford is still amazing.
Yeah,
they have an amazing running back. Like, there is a lot, to count on and be excited for.
exactly.
And the next two, Niners and Commanders, of course, my beloved Niners.
Yeah,
I mean, Niners are I think they are really the wild card, the one that you do not know what to expect. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
Because if you recall, a few years ago, they came out of a 4-12 season when we had 16 games. And then they went all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, 2019-20?
Yeah.
When they lost to Chiefs for the first time. So, the year that they drafted Nick Bosa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Niners and under Kyle Shanahan, leadership and, So, Niners have shown that they could come from a bad season and go far. Yeah. So, they are coming from a 6-11 season, of course. Not
due to injuries, though.
Yeah,
not really.
But they could totally repeat what they did a few years ago, and then Niners, honestly, if they are healthy, even though they lost a lot of talents, and they got some pretty good players in my opinion in draft, to be honest. But if they are healthy, honestly, in the NFC, since NFC, in my opinion, is a little less competitive than the AFC.
Oh, yeah. I think people would agree with that.
Yeah, so I think Niners could actually go very far with their easy schedule. Just imagine if they are a good team and their easy schedule allows them to win their conference, right? Just imagine for a second, right? And then, which means they're going to have the home court advantage, right? Throughout the playoffs. Imagine, you're going to host Eagles, you're going to host, Commanders, you're going to host, Dallas, you're going to host Vikings, Bears, Packers, whoever, right?
The NFC would run through Santa Clara.
Yeah, so they have to go through that, and then the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara. You never know, right?
Yeah.
But then again, I said that in one of these episodes that I think 2026 is the Niners year, not 2025. But then again, Niners could really, really surprise everyone. And the Commanders are next. Oh, you have a comment about?
I just wanted to make a quick comment on Niners. I do agree with a lot of points. Obviously, I'm not the biggest Niners fan. No Cowboy fan really is, but
that ugly jersey.
No Cowboy fan really likes the Niners, but I do agree with a lot of the points you said. I really think their offseason was kind of overshadowed by the amount. I think it was kind of unfairly overshadowed by the amount of players that they lost, because I really think what people are forgetting is that Niners were such a deep team in that Super Bowl run a few years ago that even with the amount of players they lost, especially on the defensive side, people are still forgetting that they still have players. They still have good players because these guys were literally such a dominant super team 2 years ago that they still have players to contend, which is why I really think they could especially be a dark horse contender for the 1 seed, considering their easiest strength of schedule statistically and pretty obviously. I really think they could be a dark horse contender for that 1 seed, and as well as them just still being a good team. I mean, people are really making them out to be this, these guys got so much worse. These guys aren't even, accountable, these guys are written off already, but I completely disagree. I really think Niners still have the ability to contend and are up there with teams Commanders and Lions, kind of. And speaking of Commanders, as you said, Commanders are
next. Well, Niners, right, on the offense, they have, Brock Purdy, they have Christian McCaffrey that could be honestly still be the best running back in the game.
Yeah, in my
We'll
opinion,
see.
is the best running
They
back.
have
People are
Trent
forgetting
Williams,
what they did.
best
Yeah.
left tackle, arguably the best tackle, left tackle in the game. Honestly, the offensive line is the one that is kind of making me really nervous. I really need to say what Kyle Shanahan's plan is for the offensive line. After the draft, I feel so much better about the defensive line, but the offensive line, I'm a little worried, right?
Exactly.
But on the offense, okay, so they have a really good running back, quarterback, left tackle, and then we have Ricky Pearsall, Jennings, I think wide receivers, and if Brandon Ayuk comes back, and he is like the Brandon Ayuk that we had 2 years ago, I think we are good on the wide receiver side as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then when you go on the
Kittle,
offense,
of course.
and then George Kittle, exactly, arguably again the best tight end in the game.
Yeah, I really
definitely
think he is
one of
at
the
this,
top three.
Yeah, I
for
really think
sure.
at this point he is the best tight end, especially with Kelsey getting older. I really think at this point he's the
definitely
best
the
tight end.
top three. I think
Yeah.
everybody would agree he's probably the top three.
Yeah.
And then on the defense side, you have Nick Bosa, and then this guy Michael Williams, right?
Yeah, Michael Williams,
Yeah,
their
so
first round
he's
draft pick.
definitely two edges. Honestly, if I'm really excited about seeing how that's gonna play out when you have these two edges, going for the quarter for the QB
Oh yeah.
of the opposing team is gonna be very very interesting. And then you have Fred Warner. You
Yeah,
have
the
really
best
good
linebacker in the league,
you
arguably.
have really good players on both sides to be, and then you have Robert Salah back, right? It's a lot of things to be excited.
Oh
about.
yeah, I feel like
But
that is
the only thing that really makes me nervous is the offensive line.
Yeah.
We gotta see how that works out.
We'll see how that plays out.
But moving quickly to Commanders, maybe just cover Commanders, Packers, and Chargers quickly. Commanders, I think they just got better.
Yeah,
Right?
they literally.
They had a really good team last year. Jordan Daniels showed to be probably the next Lamar Jackson of the league, if not better, right? And then they got that really good offensive line guy from Houston, right?
Yeah.
What was his name? That guy is
I forgot his
amazing.
name, but yeah.
Yeah, and then they got Debo.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you really look at everything they did during the offseason, their trades and their draft, these guys just got better.
Oh yeah.
Right? They had a good team already. They had a really good, exciting team, high scoring team that everybody was rooting for, and now they just got better.
Yeah.
Right? So on both ends. So Commanders, honestly, if you really ask me, on the NFC side, I put Commanders above Eagles, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think Commanders, unless we're dealing with injuries and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
this is all disregarding injuries and all that.
Yeah.
And
last year, I think Saquon Barkley, just that this guy got Eagles to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Single-handedly, if we're
they
being
didn't
honest.
have him, we would not even be talking about them
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
If Eagles did not have Saquon, I think Commanders would have been in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely.
now, I believe, as we talked earlier, we do not think Saquon is gonna have as good of a season.
Yeah.
Right. As a result, I don't think Eagles are gonna go far.
Yeah.
And I think Commanders is next year or this year is gonna, or next season basically is gonna be Commanders season.
Yeah, and I really think other than the Cowboys being so far down, which we'll talk about after, I really think the Commanders being this low on the top 10, 11 is the most shocking thing about this list, because I think they are they might not have a better Bengals are obviously ahead of them, but for example, they might not have as good of an offense as Bengals, but they're a more complete team in my opinion. They have a more complete defense, and their offense is still good. And they only got better from how good they are this year. So I don't know if it's because they're in a division with Cowboys and Eagles that they are this as low as they are. But I really did disagree with, honestly, how low they are. I think they're a very complete team. Assuming Jaden Daniels doesn't have a CJ Stroud sophomore slump type of year, these guys should theoretically have a higher chance than teams like Niners or Bengals or things like that.
Just easy with the Niners.
Well, actually, no. Maybe Niners should be higher because of their schedule.
No,
But
I was kidding.
no. I think actually no. That's my mistake. I think Niners should be higher because of their schedule. But in terms of like how good a team is, I think Commanders are a way more complete team than teams like the
Even in their
Bengals
division,
or Rams.
honestly, the only good team is Eagles, right? They shouldn't have any problem with like Dallas or Giants, right?
All right.
Honestly, I think like they already they have like 4 wins. Like, right, 2 against Cowboys, 2 against Giants, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Well, obviously, it's no secret my dad's a Cowboys hater, which is why...
I'm not a Cowboys,
look,
I'm just a...
Cowboys...
I'm being realistic here.
Cowboys hating aside, now that we've covered the top 10, I really want to address the elephant in the room, because when you said this, I was trying not to internally, like, blow my brains out with how atrocious of a pick it has for Cowboys to be plus 5,500. I mean, honestly, I just have to ask you a question. Cowboys only got better, okay? They, like Niners, similarly to Niners, I'm not saying they're as good of a team as Niners, but similarly to Niners, they were devastated by injuries last year. Devastated by injuries.
Who got injured besides Dak?
Dude, are we serious? Micah Parsons missed half the season. CeeDee Lamb missed time. So many,
but they were not devastated.
Dude,
you could call Niners devastated.
They were devastated. Also, Baba, you more than anybody know how, like, the effect a quarterback has on a team. When a quarterback is injured, your whole team is injured.
Not when your quarterback is Dak.
Okay. Hating aside, I really have to ask you something. Cowboys, considering the fact that they only got better, obviously they recently traded for George Pickens. They're gonna be healthy. They had a really good draft. Do you firmly believe that Cowboys are a worse team or have worse odds than the Cardinals?
I think so.
Honestly,
like, mark my words, like today, right? We could go back to this episode and watch it again. Cowboys have 0 chance of making the playoffs.
Look.
They are not, even if they're super healthy, they are not going to make the playoffs.
Dude, whether you want to believe that or not, can you really tell me with a straight face?
You know that they have 4 games against Eagles and Commanders?
Yeah, but Cardinals, for example, who have a higher chance according to this
Doesn't matter.
app.
I'm just saying, just remember, out of your 17 games, you guys have a really hard schedule.
Yeah.
Right? And then you also, like, you are in a pretty hard division this year.
Really hard division.
And
pretty hard. That's probably the hardest division in the league.
I know that Giants are not really considered to be a really good team this year, but they are a wild card. I really don't think that you guys have like really 2 easy games against Giants.
I don't think anybody does.
Exactly.
Really.
I think they are being underestimated. But I think that you guys like easily lose 4 games to Eagles and Commanders.
Okay,
and then
agree to disagree.
But like, seriously, you guys are not gonna make the playoffs. You guys have to wait until Dak is retired. Then maybe you have a chance of getting something.
I just really want you to tell me or the audience with a straight face, say the Dallas Cowboys have a worse chance of making the Super Bowl than the Arizona Cardinals.
I think so.
You firmly believe that?
I really think so.
You firmly believe that?
I have told you a million times.
What about the Bears or the Steelers who don't even have a quarterback? Who don't even have a quarterback?
As long as Dak Prescott, I like Dak Prescott. I mean, I have nothing against him. I'm not a Dallas hater. You know that I follow them on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, but clearly you are a Dallas hater.
But I just really believe that Dallas Cowboys would not like achieve anything as long as like the Jerry Jones, right? That's their owner.
Their owner. No, that's
as long as he's the owner, and as long as Dak is the quarterback, I really don't think they're gonna like achieve anything. To be honest, I have shared this with you before, and now I have it like shared with the rest of the world. But like I really don't think they're gonna get anywhere.
I partially agree, but what I think you're hating on Dak too much. I think the main problem with Jerry Jones.
I really don't think Jerry Jones is a quarterback that could win you to something.
And Brock Purdy is.
Yes. He already took Niners to the Super Bowl. He took Niners to 2 back-to-back NFC Championship, and he took Niners to the Super Bowl. And in that Super Bowl that they lost to Chiefs like 2 years ago, who had a better game statistically, Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes? In that very Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes had a pick, right?
Yeah.
And Brock Purdy did it.
I mean, picks don't mean everything.
I know they don't mean anything, but I'm just saying he statistically he did not have a worse game than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
and we know how great Patrick Mahomes is.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying like the guy has proven himself. Like he's not the best quarterback in the game. Of course he's not.
I know. I mean,
but I'm just saying like he is so much better than Dak. He's proven to be better. Than
Well, no, I'm not saying okay whether he's better than Dak or not. I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying Cowboys are a better team than Niners. But to put them at plus 5,500 on the same level as teams like the Cardinals, on a worse level than teams like the Cardinals and Steelers who don't even have a quarterback.
See, Cowboys
that's just insane.
At some point will come back, right? Because they are a great organization. They will come back. They will win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, 5 Super Bowls under their belt.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. 5, like Niners also have 5. I mean, Steelers.
The point is they're a good organization.
No, they are a good organization. They will come back. They will win something at some point, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, honestly, I truly believe that they would not do that as long as they have the current ownership. I mean, the ownership is fine. He could just be the owner. But, like, I'm just talking about, like, someone that runs the team, right?
I don't... Yeah.
And also the quarterback. I really think that Dak is good. Of course, he's a good quarterback. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the game. But he's not a quarterback that would win you a Super Bowl. I really don't think so.
Well, agree.
I mean, like, you know that, right? That Dallas Cowboys are the only NFC team that have not made the NFC Championship in the 21st century.
I do know that,
there are
but that's
16 teams in the NFC. 16 teams in the NFC, and all other 15 teams have gone to the NFC Championship in the past 5 years. And Dallas Cowboys have not even gone to the NFC Championship game, let alone winning it.
We're 25 years into the 21st century, and you're acting as if all 25 of those years. You're acting as if. You're acting as if
you were not even. You were born like 7-8 years into the 21st century.
You're acting as if all those 25 years were played by Dak. That's not all Dak's fault.
But Jerry was like the owner, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's Jerry's fault.
No, I mean, and Dak.
Well,
I mean,
maybe we should save this.
Back in the day, you guys were buying your Super Bowls. I mean,
all right. Well, maybe we should save this for another. Maybe we should save this for another episode.
So,
Cowboys versus Niners episode.
Packers and Chargers. Yeah. Honestly, Packers. I think we were talking the other day, right? Packers are an interesting team, right? I really think. I told you the other day that I would not be surprised if these guys go out early or go too far.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised either way. Like, they are like such a weird team, right?
Really weird.
Remember, team. 2 years ago, they blew Dallas, right?
Yeah, in Dallas.
In Dallas. And then Niners, they almost eliminated Niners.
Yeah.
The Niners that went to the Super Bowl.
The Niners who were the Super Bowl favorite.
Exactly. They almost in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
And then, last year, they did not beat any good team.
Yeah.
Right? They pretty much beat any bad team.
Every bad team
lost to any good team.
Yeah. And then they had a pathetic loss to the Eagles in the first round.
Exactly.
So.
And they're like a young team. They have so they could come out and Packers, Packers, Lambeau, Packers. They have
they have a culture.
They have a culture. They have a history. They're deep, right?
Yeah.
So these guys are not like a team like Jaguars or anything like that. No disrespect to Jaguars, but they're not Packers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Packers could come out and honestly have a great season. They could go far. I really don't think they could win the Super Bowl in a million years. They do not have a chance to win the next Super Bowl, not even one in a million, in my opinion. But they could go far.
Oh yeah.
Even I would not be surprised if they go to the NFC Championship, to be honest.
Yeah, as you said, and I completely agree with you. It won't be surprising if they don't even make it to the playoffs, and it won't be surprising if they make it to the NFC Championship.
Exactly.
It won't. They're a really weird team. They have a good roster, but there are so many factors that come into play, especially with how hard their division is, and how inconsistent they are with beating those good teams. They really have to prove themselves, I think. But they're a young team. Their future is bright. So.
And the last team, Chargers, right?
Yeah.
I know that it's a lot longer, than we expected this episode to be, but Chargers.
Another team with a bright future.
You know that we both love Chargers, right? That's
Yeah.
like, by the way, that's like our second
Our
team,
second
right?
team after
Like,
Cowboys
we
and
go to a
Niners.
lot of Chargers games every year. We love Chargers in LA, and we really root for them. Chargers, they just got a lot better,
Yeah.
right? We knew Chargers, they would just keep getting better. Like having Harbaugh from college football,
Yeah.
knowing college players, like we believed in him knowing who to draft, right, from
Oh,
college
yeah.
football, and that's exactly what he's been doing, right? So Chargers, I think maybe they're not ready to go to the Super Bowl yet, right, this year, but I think next year they have a higher chance, right? But like
Each year that passes. I think,
exactly,
would be
but
higher.
Chargers, a couple of issues. I think two issues. First of all, their division is extremely hard,
Yeah.
right? They have Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos,
Yeah.
right? Okay, Raiders, you could argue, right, how good these guys are. They have Pete Carroll, like, you know, they just got Genty, and like they're a good team. I
Yeah,
think.
they got a sort of quarterback
Yeah.
in Geno Smith.
Exactly. So they're not as bad as they have been in the past few years. I think they could totally like beat any of these teams in their division, right?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna finish fourth, but they could beat any of these like
Yeah.
other three teams. But
As
okay,
for Broncos and Chiefs, that is.
yeah, but the Broncos and Chiefs, like those, I mean, we don't need to talk about them, right? They're like really, really. I mean, Chiefs, of course, you don't need to talk about them,
Yeah,
but
and then Broncos only got better,
the
adding
Broncos are
players
also
like
got better,
Greenlaw.
like, and they're like defensively, they just got so much better.
Yeah, after already having like the sixth best defense in the league.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these guys, so that's like their first challenge, right? Because 6 out of 17 games are gonna be against those 3 teams.
Yeah.
And they're all good teams, right? The second issue is even if they go to the playoffs, if they advance to the playoffs, they have to worry about Bills, they have to worry about Ravens, they have to worry about Bengals. Like it's hard, like for Chargers,
really
right?
hard.
It's really, really hard. As I said, on the AFC side, to be honest, when you really name the top 4 quarterbacks in the AFC, actually the top 4 quarterbacks in the league. Name the top 4 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, and
Lamar,
Lamar. Did I say
They're all
Lamar?
in the
Yeah.
AFC.
They're all in the AFC.
Exactly, and
Every
Justin
single one
Herbert,
of them.
right? And like these guys, they're all in. And then now you have Bo Nix, right? And you have all of these like NFC.
Yeah.
And then AFC is like they have all these teams, they have all these quarterbacks, and they're all pretty much young.
I know they're really
they're
young.
they're not living.
These guys are going to dominate the league for the next 5 years. I mean,
At least.
At least.
Maybe 5 to 10 years, exactly. So that's why Chargers, they have a bright future with Harbaugh, right? With Justin Herbert, with the players that they have. But like, they just happen to be in an era that is like filled with amazing quarterbacks on the AFC.
Exactly.
If they could ever get past all these teams and go to the Super Bowl, I think they could win the Super Bowl.
And what I do think too is another factor is playoff experience. I mean, you saw
Good point.
and you saw what happened last year where they got blown out to a mediocre at best Texans team, which was also pretty hammered by injuries. Everybody, even though it was in Houston, everybody really thought they were even favored in that game. Everybody thought they should have won that game. But rather than losing, they also got blown out to a very mediocre Texans team, in my opinion. So I think it'll also come with playoff experience. Yeah.
But now they're just getting more of that, right? So,
more of that, getting better. That was only the first year under a whole new coaching staff. Like, they will only get better and they will be back.
But our Chargers have a bright future.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So a lot of good talks tonight.
Yeah,
and a
great
lot,
talks tonight.
Longer than what we expected, but I think we covered a lot of good topics and covered pretty much the teams that have a shot at winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, definitely one of my favorite
Good
episodes so
conversations, yeah.
far. And hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the
Take
next
care,
one.
everybody.
See you.